Parshas Yisro, Tovshin Ayin Daled. We find in the beginning of the Parsha, Yisro, who was the Pope before he came to Moshe Rabbeinu, he hears about the Jews getting out of Egypt and the splitting of the Red Sea, and he decides to come to Moshe Rabbeinu. And he takes Tzipora and the children, and the Torah tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu named his second son Eliezer Ki Elokei Ovi Bezri, because the Hashem of my father was with me, helped me, Vayatzileni Mecherev Paroi, and he saved me from the sword of Paroi. Hashem created the world, and Hashem maintains the world. And yet, the Koyach HaBechira, Hashem has created the world to allow free choice that extends all kinds of limitations, all kinds of barriers, past all kinds of barriers, to the point where we see that a human being has the ability to kill another human being, to take somebody's life. A person would say, you didn't give him life, and you don't own the world, and how could you do this? And the answer is that this is how far the Koyach HaBechira goes, the power of free choice, that Hashem allows people and even lahavdil animals to do all kinds of things in a negative way. And we know that Torah always emphasizes Mida Toiva Meruba, that the good of Hashem, the kindness of Hashem, always exceeds the opposite, the bad. Here we see a case where Moshe Rabbeinu remembers that Hashem saved him from the sword of Paroi. Paroi was very afraid. His stargazers had told him there's going to be born a child that's going to take you out completely, that's going to eliminate you and your kingdom and your people, everything. All of this is going to fall. And Paroi was afraid. He took all kinds of steps to block this. And eventually, after Moshe Rabbeinu was born, after he was raised in the palace, after Dosan Vaviram snitched on him, that they saw him kill somebody using a name of Hashem, and now Paroi decided to make a test to see this child, what's his story? And Paroi put two things in front of him. He put the crown in front of him, the crown of Paro on one part, and burning hot coals, hissing coals, which make a lot of noise and they glow and everything. And a normal child would naturally be attracted much more to the hissing coals. Moshe Rabbeinu looked at these two and immediately went for the crown. Hashem sent a special angel to push his hand away, because had Paroi seen Moshe Rabbeinu take the crown, he would have killed him on the spot. And yet, the Gemara tells us, despite that, Paroi at one point took out a sword and tried to cut off Moshe Rabbeinu's head. And Hashem made a miracle, Vayatzileni Mecherev Paroi, that Moshe Rabbeinu's neck turned into marble, like stone, and the sword could not kill him. Rabbi Nasan Maimon points out in Yoreh Deah and Hilkhos Milah, Halacha Hey, paragraph 26, that we see here how far the power of a human being is. Number one, a human being, and a tzaddik, and the tzaddik of all tzaddikim, the leader of all tzaddikim. That even though when a person is holding a gun to you, or a knife, a person puts a knife at your throat, in most situations like that, it's pretty difficult for a person to save themselves. But yet the Torah tells us it is possible. It definitely is possible. Just like the Bechira, the free choice is such that a person could kill, there has to be free choice that a person can save themselves also. And one of the ways that this is accomplished is through bitul. Bitul means a person's ability to nullify themselves, to negate themselves completely, to connect with Hashem on the highest level possible, that I'm nobody, I'm nothing, I don't exist as an I. I'm a part of Hashem. And Hashem is indestructible. Hashem can't be killed. Hashem can't be cut. To the degree that a person is able to do that, a person could even save himself when a gun is pointed at him and somebody pulls the trigger. Rabbi Nasan once said it's possible to block the bullet from being released, through this willpower, through this koyach of machshava, a level of concentration of the mind, and a level of connecting to Hashem on so high a level. Moshe Rabbeinu, obviously, the leader of all tzaddikim, was obviously able to do this, and as a result, he was able to defend himself even from Paroi, king of the world, with his officers, with his armies and everything. Even when Moshe Rabbeinu was in such a predicament that they're cutting his throat already, Moshe Rabbeinu was able to be saved even at that time. Shortly afterwards, we see Yisro arrives, and the Torah tells us, Vayetze Moshe likras choisnoi, Moshe Rabbeinu goes out to greet him, and they bow to each other, and he kisses him. Vayishalu ish l'reyehu l'shalom. And the man greeted his friend in peace. Rabbi Nasan mentions this in a few places in Likutey Halakhos, that this has to set off such an alarm for us in making us realize the level of love that Hashem has for us by seeing the level of love that tzaddikim have. The Gemara says, Mi hakorui ish ze Moshe. Who is called Ish in the Torah? That refers to Moshe Rabbeinu. V'ho ish Moshe onav moed. And Moshe Rabbeinu and Yisro were as far apart as two people could possibly be. Moshe Rabbeinu is the greatest believer in Hashem, the most loyal, dedicated servant believer in Hashem, who's teaching the world faith in Hashem. Yisro is the exact opposite of that, especially at this point where he had not yet converted. He was coming to convert, but he had not yet converted. He still has all of that baggage with him, and yet the Torah refers to them as Ish v'reyehu. And Rabbi Nasan points out, because this is how the greatest of tzaddikim conduct themselves, that a tzaddik of the caliber of Moshe Rabbeinu has the ability to lower himself and to bring himself so close to a person who expresses a desire of wanting to come close to the truth, to Hashem. The tzaddik brings himself to that person as if he were his friend, a buddy, not a rabbi, not a parent, as if he were a close friend. That's what the Torah writes here, Vayishalu ish l'reyehu l'shalom. And we could imagine that if this is what Moshe Rabbeinu does, if this is what the greatest of tzaddikim, the most respected of all Jews does, how much more so we, when a person has an opportunity to reach out to a Jew who's trying to come close, to make sure to be able to display this attitude of ish l'reyehu, that it's not that I know so much more and I'm in this so many years more than you, etc. Moshe Rabbeinu, the greatest Talmid Chacham, the greatest prophet, the greatest tzaddik, the attitude that Yisro felt from him was ish l'reyehu. Wow, I feel like he's a friend. I don't feel like he's he's not coming to me like a rabbi, like a king, like an angel. He's coming mamish, he's treating me as if I'm a friend. That attitude. Later on in the Parsha, the Torah tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu leads the Jews towards Hashem and brings them under the mountain on Har Sinai. Vayoytze Moshe esom likras olikim. Rabbi Nachman, in the book Sichos HaRan, Rabbi Nachman's Wisdom, paragraph 123, points out that there are many people who make an effort to come close to Hashem, and it lasts a short period of time, and then it stops. They stop for whatever reasons, obstacles, forgetting, all kinds of things. And then when they look back at what happened, they say that was nothing. It doesn't really count. When in fact, Rabbi Nasan points out that that's not true. We find that even in this instance, when it came to the Jews appearing before Hashem to receive the Torah, the pasuk says in Shir Hashirim, chapter 4, Libavtani bi'achas me'inayich. Hashem says, you loved me with one eye. You were standing there at Har Sinai, one eye on Hashem, and one eye already planning your getaway, planning the golden calf, the Egel HaZohov. And still, despite that, Hashem considered it precious. The few minutes, the few days that they were good, that they were religious, that they showed faith in Hashem, Hashem treasured that and valued that. And we need to know that, again, one of the ways that a person can be zeicha to continue this trip. Coming close to Hashem is not a one-way trip. It's not just an ascent. It involves ups and downs. It involves advances and setbacks. And one of the ways that the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, knocks a person out is by playing down the good. Big deal. So you learned yesterday for a few hours. Big deal. You gave this charity then. So what? You haven't done anything in the past couple of months. You haven't gone to shul in the past couple of... So it's nothing. What you did then was nothing. When in fact the Torah shows us that that's not the case. Hashem treasures every minute. And this has to be an inspiration when a person realizes that they've allowed themselves to drift away, to say, okay, I'm gonna come back. If I know that he loves me so much that he even values a few minutes with me, then I'm going to go back for another few. Even if it's just another few minutes, I'm going to go back and make that and reconnect. One of the great mitzvahs in the Ten Commandments, the Torah says, Zocher es yoim hashabos l'katshoy. Remember the Shabbos. And Shabbos is an example, like a microcosm of the whole creation, of what goes on in the world. Because we know that when Shabbos is over, we make Havdalah, we declare the fact that Hashem has created the world in such a way that He created weekday and He created Shabbos. He created Eretz Yisrael and the other countries. There's this good, there's this light, this little bit of light. Shabbos is a day of light. We bring Shabbos into our lives by lighting candles. This is the little bit of spirituality in the week. And because of the fact that the world is designed in such a way, this is what makes it that inside a human being, we know that there are three parts to a person that are referred to as kings, leaders inside the person. There's the brain, the moyach, which is the seat of the neshama, where the soul resides. On the opposite extreme, there's the liver, the koved. The Gemara says in Brachos, koved koyes. The liver is where anger comes from. It's all koved moledam, it's blood. It's the opposite. The brain is referred to as the white matter of the brain, the gray matter of the brain, and the liver is the opposite of that. The liver corresponds to Esav. Esav, who is Edom, redness, anger. The Gemara tells us when a person gets angry, they lose their brain. They forfeit their brain. They forfeit their ability to think clearly. And suddenly the mouth shoots out without being connected to the brain at all. And people say things that are senseless. Afterwards, they look back at what they said. How could I have said so? What was I thinking? The answer is, I wasn't thinking. The Gemara says when a person gets angry, kol hakoyes, im chacham hu chachmasai mistalekes mimenu. So there's these two opposites. There's the brain on one end, which is the closest connection to spirituality. And on the opposite extreme, there's the liver, which is the most megusham, the most physical and materialistic of all organs of the body. And then in between them, you have the heart. The heart has two sections. Shlomo Melech says in Koheles, Leiv chacham liyaminoi, leiv ksil lismoiloi. An intelligent person favors the right side of his heart, which is the good inclination, the Yetzer Tov, and a fool allows himself to be led by the left side of his heart, the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. We have these three leaders, and again, because we find ourselves in a world where the majority of the world is not holy, is not Eretz Yisrael. You look on the map, even just of the Middle East alone, Israel is a tiny little dot. There's this tiny little dot of holiness surrounded by all of the unholiness in the Middle East and the rest of the world. Shabbos, there's this one day in a 7-day week. The Jewish nation, there's this tiny, tiny little population among billions of other people. So it's so easy for a person to be misled in this world and to forget about the purpose of creation, which is recognition of Hashem and connecting to Hashem. How does one do it? Rabbi Nasan Maimon says the secret to this is Shabbos. Shabbos lishbos means to rest. One of the ways that the Yetzer Hara confuses a person and prevents a person from living well in this world, from living right, is by keeping us on the treadmill. We're running. From the second we wake up, we're running, all kinds of running distractions. And a person needs to know that for holiness, for connecting to Hashem, a person needs to stop. A person needs lishbot, to pull the emergency brake, to slam on the brakes, to say, I'm not running. For a certain part of my day, I'm going to take out some piece of my day, and I'm disconnecting from all the running, all the things that are moving and running. I'm getting off the conveyor belt, off the elevator, whatever it is. I'm stopping. This concept of stopping, slamming on the brakes, and just allowing oneself to think a little. Not to think about the things that are coming at them, attacking them, to think about what am I doing here, to think about a higher level, to transcend the materialism, to transcend the mundane, all the things that are coming at him. He's under attack from all sides. The bills and the this and the that, all the different things. So remember the Shabbos, Likadshoy. This will give you the ability to sanctify yourself, to become holy. If you will allow yourself this luxury of resting, stopping, taking a breather, taking a breath, taking out time to think higher, to think bigger, to look at the big picture. A lot of times, most of the mistakes that we make are because we're reacting, we're responding to something right in front of us. And that's what's making us nervous and angry and upset, and that's what's causing us to make mistakes. Whereas if a person allows himself the luxury to look at the bigger picture, then suddenly the person can think, and it's not so bad. And I don't have to respond to this. The phone rings, I don't have to answer him yet. I'm allowed to think. Right now, I'm standing on one foot, I'm standing on one toe. If I answer, if I respond, my response, it's very easy to make a mistake. Let me wait till I'm a little more set and I'm in a better place. I can think a little bit, and then I can respond correctly to the situation. Person gets into a discussion with somebody, an argument, a debate, and it starts escalating. Person needs to know they're allowed to pull the brake and say, stop. I don't want any part of this. I need to think. Maybe you're right. I need the opportunity to think a little clearly. And this way, this is one of the main secrets of how a person gets to Kedusha. This secret of Zocher es Yom HaShabbos L'Katshoy. Rabbi Nasan refers to this as Hispoidus or Hispoinenus. A person spending time disconnecting from the humdrum, from the rat race, and allowing themselves the luxury to think a little bit, to think higher, to think bigger, to think about Hashem, to think about their ultimate goals, what's the real goal, and thereby save themselves from mistakes, terrible, terrible mistakes that are made in rushing. A person rushes, doesn't allow themselves this shvisa, this menucha. Should be zeicha, all of us, to recognize that every mitzvah in the Torah is advice. It's an eitzah. It's Hashem's chachma. It's the knowledge of Hashem, but it's also practical guidance and advice. This is why when Moshe Rabbeinu went up to heaven and the angels said, what are you doing here? The Torah? What Torah? The Torah belongs to us. We are the highest level, we're much more intelligent than human beings. The Torah isn't for you. Moshe Rabbeinu said to them, you're more intelligent, you're a higher level of chachma, but do you have jealousy? Do you have to deal with the tests that human beings have to deal? The Torah is not just an intellectual thing, it's not just a chachma. The Torah is a wisdom of Hashem that was designed to improve the lives of people. It was designed to deal with human beings who have this free choice, who have this constant conflict, these two things pulling them in both directions, the brain pulling them in one direction, and the liver pulling them in the opposite direction, and the heart caught in the middle. And when a person allows themselves the ability to think carefully, then the order is set straight. Then the order is moyach, Leiv Koved. The mem of Moyach and then the lamed of Leiv and then the chaf of Koved spells the word Melech. Melech means a king. Hashem is king. Each and every Jew is called a Ben Melech. Each and every Jew has the Yisroel Mam Shaloisov. We are part of the kingdom of Hashem. In this week's Parsha, Va'atem Tiuli Mamleches Koyanim. This is how a Jew can be a Melech if he allows himself. He allows the brain to be out there in front first, followed by the heart, and with the koved all the way in the back. Chas v'shalom, if a person reverses the order, they respond right away, they pull the trigger right, the koved is leading, the liver is leading, the emotions, the heat, the passions are leading the person, then the reverse, koved leiv moyach, spells the word kalem, which means destruction. Destruction or shame and embarrassment. Klima means embarrassment. Shem should help, we should be zeicha. Being Bnei Malachim, princes, Hashem's princes, and to conduct ourselves and to be zeicha to see the ultimate Melech, the Melech HaMoshiach, the building of the Beis HaMikdash, Meher V'Yameinu, Amen V'Yameinu.